Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Sarah, and in today's video I'm going to be doing another Letterboxd video, but it is a little bit different because I'm going to be watching some celebrities' top 4 movies on Letterboxd. So I'm going to be choosing 2 celebrities and I'm going to be watching their top 4 on Letterboxd, and I'm going to be judging their taste basically. So before we get started, make sure you subscribe and give this video a big thumbs up. Anyways, let's get started. Okay, so for today's video I'm going to be doing Billie Eilish and Olivia Rodrigo. So for Billie Eilish's top 4,
my favorites in the course of my not long life so far that have been the most influential to me, that I've talked about many times, are like The Babadook.
This movie is Babadook. So I've never heard of this movie before the video with Billie Eilish, so I had no idea what I was getting into. And I'm going to read the summary and then I'm going to talk about, the movie and if I enjoyed it and my rating, okay? So, The Babadook. And it is directed by Jennifer Kent and it was released in 2014. Okay, so I'm going to read you guys the summary. If it's in a crowd or it's in a look, you can't get rid of the Babadook. A single mother, plagued by the violent death of her husband, battles with her son's fear of a monster lurking in the house, but soon discovers a sinister presence all around her. So, on Letterboxd, this is rated 3.3, and let me tell you something. When I first started watching it, I was like, this is really boring, it's really slow. It basically follows this mother, and this widowed mother, and with her son, and she's just coping with her husband's death, and her son, is like scared of the Babadook and just keeps like screaming out his name, and the mother is like, enough, it's just a book, he's not real. And then he just starts screaming, and then later on the mother feels a certain presence, as it's said in the summary, and she goes insane and she feels the spirit of Babadook following her around, and she gets really concerned. So they ended up defeating, I guess, the Babadook. So yeah, I personally did not enjoy this, even though it's a horror and I love horror movies. I feel like the film was not executed well, and I feel like there could be more things that they could add to it. Overall, I gave it a 2 stars. So 2 out of 5 for Babadook. Billie Eilish, I'm not impressed. But it is definitely something that, now I don't know when Billie watched this because it was released in 2014, so maybe she did watch it in 2014, maybe she watched it like recently, but it really reminds me of her album, When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? And I love that album. I love Billie Eilish and I love her music, but so far her movie taste, not that good. So yeah, I definitely think if she watched this movie before that album, she definitely took a lot of inspiration from here. And also I know that she took a lot of inspiration from American Horror Story as well. So yes, I give Babadook a 2 out of 5. Amazing. We don't know how much Billie gave it, but I'm guessing 4 or 5 because it is in her top, I guess, 4. So yeah, let's move on to Billie's next favorite movie.
We need to talk about Kevin.
Her second, I guess, movie that's on her top 4 on Letterboxd is We Need to Talk About Kevin, directed by Lean Ramsey, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, in 2011. So, I'm going to read the summary first, then we'll talk about it. This conversation is long overdue. After her son Kevin commits a horrific act, troubled mother Eva reflects on her complicated relationship with her disturbed son as he grew from a toddler into a teenager. So the rating on this is 3.8. Now, this movie I loved. It basically follows this mother and they show her relationship with her son and her family basically, but specifically her son. She does not have the best relationship with him. He behaves horribly. You know, when he was like little, like he wasn't speaking, he wasn't doing like activities. Like when she wanted to play with him, there's a scene of her playing with him like with a ball, and like she would like throw him the ball and he wouldn't like return it and stuff like that. And I really want to talk a lot about this movie because I really enjoyed it, so if I'm blabbing a little too much, you can skip a little bit. But yeah, she takes him to a doctor because she's like worried, like, does he have autism, you know? But the doctor said no, he's totally fine, like he doesn't have any signs of autism, he's totally normal. So then as he grows, he treats his mother horribly, and he's just really horrible with his sister as well, and literally with everyone. But he's very distant, but I feel like he still has like a relationship with his father. Like he definitely talks with his father, plays with him and stuff like that, but with the mother, like nothing. And whenever the mother tries to bring up like our son has problems to the father, he always says, oh, something is wrong with you. And they don't have the best relationship, and they end up getting divorced, I believe. Yeah, they end up getting divorced, but that's like at the end of the movie, or close to the end, I guess. But yeah, they don't have the best relationship, and we just see him grow up to I don't know like who the mom is, but like you can tell that he was going to grow up and be a psychopath. Like that was so obvious. Like I don't know how the mom didn't see that. I mean, probably because you wouldn't want to think that your son will grow up to be a psychopath. But then one day he ordered this package from Amazon or whatever, and it was like this, I don't know what it was specifically, but it was like this big yellow, it kind of looked like a carabiner, but it was like huge. And the mother was like, why are you buying this? And he was like, oh, just for school, like for bikes or something. And she was like, okay. And then obviously there's a lot of like time jumps, so we see a lot of time jumps of like this crime that he's committed, but we don't see exactly like what he committed, you know. So it basically time jumped, and we see, you know, the mother is going to the scene. It was like at a school, and it looks like a school, if you know what I mean. I don't want to say it, but it looks like a school. And she basically was like going there, and she was, you know, she was looking for him. She was worried, like what if, you know, something happened to him. Everyone was worried, obviously. And she goes in, well, she stands in front of the school because the school's closed, because like he's inside, I think, and he locked everything, and the door is locked by the yellow carabiner thing. So she knew exactly who's doing that, whatever, you know, he's doing, because no one had any ideas. And he comes out, they arrest him, and he was basically like hitting them with like bow and arrow. I don't know if it's like, I think it's real bow and arrows, but yeah, throughout the movie there's a lot of time jumps. So we see the mother like going to a supermarket and being like discreet, and like other mothers like slapping her and stuff like that, obviously because, you know, her son unalived their daughter or son or whatever. So yeah, and then that's it. The mother comes back home and she sees her husband and her daughter laying in the backyard dead with an arrow inside of them, and it's just amazing. Like, I'm sorry, but this movie is wonderful. I gave it 4 stars, so higher than the average rating. So Billie Eilish, you are doing amazing. I mean, The Babadook was a letdown, but this one is amazing. I don't know if I said the name. It's We Need to Talk About Kevin. Okay, so let's move on to the third movie.
I Origins also is amazing. That's the second half of that movie. Is like, I love a good plot twist. I love a plot. I love when there's a plot. I love when something happens and you have to be like, oh, interesting. I love when you have to pay attention. I'm also really bad at understanding plots. Like, that's one of my things. Like, I cannot understand.
Okay, so the third movie on her top 4 Letterboxd is I Origins, and this is another banger. Like, she really, like, after I watched Babadook, I was like, oh no, is this going to be like a horrible top 4? But I was like, come on, it's Billie Eilish. Like, she has great taste in music, you know, not only the music that she makes, but also the music that she listens to. Great, you know, sense and fashion and everything, so I was like kind of surprised, but thank God it was only the Babadook. Okay, next is The Eye Origins. It was released in 2014. It was directed by Mike Cahill, and its average rating is 3.7. Now I'm going to read the summary of Eye Origins. A molecular biologist study of human eye has far-reaching implications about humanity's scientific and spiritual beliefs. The summary doesn't say much about it, which I'm glad it doesn't, because I feel like with this movie you want to go into it completely blind, at least. Blind, you get it? Anyways, but this movie basically follows this molecular biologist who is at this party, and he meets this woman who was wearing like a mask that covers all her face except for her eyes, and they hit it off, you know, they spend the night together, and he only sees like her eyes. Obviously the next day she's not there because she runs away, and yeah, his life basically moves on. He is a scientist, so he works in a lab with this other woman who is a genius, and they basically trying to find the meaning of life and everything like that, but specifically with eyes. And he likes photography as well, so he took a picture of her eyes, and he always like looks at them even like when they're, you know, at the lab, and like the woman who works with him is like always like looking like, why are you looking at those eyes? But anyways, after a few like months, I believe, he sees her at a cafe, or I think I don't really remember, he either sees her at a cafe or like he finds her Facebook or something and they decide to meet up at a cafe. I don't really remember that well, but then after that, you know, they kind of started dating, and then, you know, they're in a relationship, and then she ends up dying. Okay, so fast forward a little, obviously he's still, you know, in love with her and everything, and he always looks, you know, at her eyes, but then he ends up getting into a relationship with that woman scientist with him, who works with him on, you know, the thing that they're working at, and they end up having a baby. Now they take this baby to this like place, you know, and find like a lot of eyes, like sets of eyes that we're taking photos of, and they were using this mechanism like where they take a picture of your eyes and they look you up, you know, online, and gives you a bunch of information and everything, and he finds her eyes in that site, and he said, oh, press this, like I know she's dead, but you know, just press it, I just want to see. And it gives up like, oh, she's actually alive and everything, and they were like, what? So and the location was set to India, so he went to India and he was looking for those eyes because he thought, you know what, look, is she alive, like could she be alive? So he went to India and he was looking for these eyes, and he ends up finding this little girl with those eyes. Now it wasn't the girl who, you know, died and everything, but it was like a little girl, I think she was like 8 or 7 or whatever, but she was like a little girl with those eyes, and that was basically it. That was the movie. I know it doesn't sound that interesting, but it's actually amazing. So I ended up giving it a 4 stars, and I loved it. It was amazing. I didn't think I was gonna like it, but I liked it. So another banger from Billie Eilish.
I cannot understand. Oh, Drive. Drive is one of my favorite movies. Those are like the most influential to my life.
Okay, the last movie on Billie Eilish's top 4 is Drive. I'm sure everybody knows this movie. It was in 2011. Both of these movies, Drive and The Babadook, 2011, and then Where the Hell is Kevin, or whatever that is, and Eye Origins 2014. So great. This was directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. I apologize sincerely. And this average rating of 3.9. I'm gonna read the summary for you guys. So there are no clean getaways. Driver is a skilled Hollywood stuntman who moonlights as a getaway driver for criminals. Though he projects an icy exterior, lately he's been warming up a pretty neighbor named Irene and her young son Benicio. When Irene's husband gets out of jail, he enlists drivers' help in a $1 million heist. This job goes horribly wrong. The driver must risk his life to protect Irene and Benicio from the vengeful masterminds behind the robbery. So obviously the husband ends up dying, and this is a summary that gives off literally every single detail. So if you literally read the summary, the whole movie would be spoiled. So I don't understand like why these summaries are so like detailed and stuff. That's why I do not like to read the summary of a movie or a show or even a book before I start reading. So I don't recommend you guys to read that. Obviously this is a spoiler video, by the way, if you guys are not aware of that. But yeah, basically that summary said everything about the movie. He is the stuntman slash getaway driver for hitmen's and stuff like that, or criminals in general, and he basically stays in his car, you know, waits for the criminals to get into the car, and then he drives them basically. And her husband, what's her name again, Irene's husband, is also a criminal, and he was gonna do the same thing. He was his getaway driver, but as he was waiting for, you know, her husband to come out, you know, he does come out, but he ends up getting shot and he dies. And then basically our main character over here always had a thing for Irene because he met her before and he didn't know that she was married. I mean, he saw the child, but he didn't know that she had a husband. But then also he found out, and I guess now he just wants to protect her and everything. And that's how the movie ends, of him protecting her basically. So there's nothing much to say about that. I ended up giving it a 3.5. I thought I was gonna like it more, but I don't know. It was okay. So that is all of Billie Eilish's top 4 favorites on Letterboxd, and I will be rating them from my favorite to my least favorite. So my favorite, probably, I don't know, I'm between I Origins and Kevin. I'm not gonna say the whole name, so I'm gonna just say Kevin. So those two are like the same, you know, like they're pretty up there. Then Drive, then The Babadook. I don't even know why The Babadook is up there, but you know what, to each their own. Everyone likes a certain thing, and I'm not gonna judge, even though I just judged her. She's fine, she's doing fine, she doesn't need my opinion, but this is just what I think. So now let's move on to Miss Olivia Rodrigo. Okay, so these are Olivia Rodrigo's top 4 movies on Letterboxd.
Oh my gosh, I love these! I always watch these. Oh, perfect! This is amazing. I'd say Gone Girl.
So the first one is Gone Girl. Now, Queen knows what she's up to. Gone Girl, I love Gone Girl. So Gone Girl, released in 2014, directed by David Fincher. Amazing. And this is rated 4.1 stars on Letterboxd. So I'm gonna read the summary, then I'll talk about it. I'm probably gonna ramble a lot about this movie, I'm just gonna say, but yeah, let's go. So, you don't know what you've got till it's. With his wife's disappearance having become the focus of an intense media circus, a man sees the spotlight turn on him when it's suspected that he may not be innocent. So I'm sure everybody already knows about Gone Girl or have seen edits about Amy Dunn, but it basically follows Ben Affleck's character, and he has this wife, Amy Dunn, who is famous. And the reason why she's famous is really weird. Her parents like write books about Amazing Amy, and Amazing Amy is basically like the better version of Amy Dunn and everything like her parents wanted her to be, but she failed at, basically. That's kind of, you know, messed up. But yeah, and she ends up, you know, disappearing, Gone Girl, you know, and she left this journal, and now everybody is suspecting that the husband killed her, because in the journal there was, you know, she was writing, oh, that he is abusive and this happened and so many things. And not to make like his situation even worse, he was cheating with his student, so that looks like even worse, like he unalived her to get with his, you know, student, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I don't want to get into it because I feel like I can ramble about it so much that I can make like a specific video just about this, but it's amazing. Now, I give it a 4.5 out of 5, and the reason why I didn't give it a 5 is because I have read the book, because this is based on a book. And the book just is amazing. Like, the book is a 5, this is a 4.5. And I mean, I will say that this is probably the best movie to book adaptation that I have ever seen, because we all know that whenever something is based on a book, either it's a movie or a show, it's usually not the greatest, and it's rarely, perfect, if that makes any sense. So this was actually amazing, and the reason why I didn't give it a 5 is because in the books, when we get into Amy Dunn with her journal and everything, when we're at her point of view, we just get to like be in her head, kind of like we feel like we are her. And when we watch the movie, it doesn't really feel like we are, her. It just feels like we are following along with her, like maybe we're like her accomplice. But like in the book, you literally go inside her head, because there are so many details in there that they could have definitely put into the movie. It's just the movie would be like 4 hours long, so I understand. So I'm just gonna say this is like a really good book to movie adaptation for, I guess how heavy the book is. So yes, I give this movie a 4.5. So far Olivia is doing amazing.
Lady Bird, so good. I remember watching that for the first time, just bawling my eyes out.
The next movie is Lady Bird. Now, this, I feel like everybody knows Lady Bird. It is released in 2017 by Greta Gerwig, and it has a 3.8 rating on Letterboxd. Now, I'm gonna read the summary, then we'll get into it, okay? Fly Away Home. Lady Bird McPherson, a strong-willed, deeply opinionated, artistic 17-year-old comes of age in Sacramento. Her relationship with her mother and her upbringing are questioned and tested as she plans to head off to college. So, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this movie because I feel like that's a great summary. It doesn't give off the main thing. Basically, this movie is more like the journey of the 17-year-old, That's basically this movie, and it's one of those like slow movies. Obviously, I think we all know Greta Gerwig, her like movie style and everything, but yeah, so it follows Lady Bird. It's obviously just like she likes to be called that. It's obviously not her real name. I forgot her real name because it's been a long time since I watched this. But she doesn't have the best relationship with her mother. She's kind of close to her father, but not that much, but she's definitely closer to her father than her mother. And she goes out to parties, but she's just like this awkward, I guess, girl who doesn't know what to do, with her life. I mean, she's 17. Like, does anyone know what to do, their life? Even at 20, but yeah. She does not know what to do with her life. She meets this boy, played by Timothée Chalamet, and, she basically gets together with him, and she thought that he was like the love of her life, even though they only known each other for like 2 weeks. And she told him that she lives in this other house that isn't her house, and she just wanted to be the popular girl and everything. And he ends up being a douche and everything, so they end up breaking up. But then she, at the end, she ends up getting accepted to her dream college, and she moves out. And at the end, like, you just see her standing there in front of the church, and just like thinking, like, is this really what I want, or was this just something that I imagined? Like, is this really what I want now? Like, she's still not sure what she wants, it's not like she finally found what she wants to do. No, she still doesn't know. And the scene that really broke me and made me cry was when they were heading to the airport. Her mother was driving, and you know, they don't have the best relationship, and you can just see the emotions going on between them. And then the mother said like, and then you know, Lady Bird went in with her father at the airport, and like the father was like, you don't want to say bye to her? Because like the mother was like mad and salty, you know, and it was like, no. And then at the end, you know, that's it, Lady Bird entered the airport and whatever her terminal, or I don't really know. And then the mother finally came out of the car, you know, she wants to say bye, but you know, her father is there standing alone. You know, Lady Bird already went in and she was just crying. The mom was crying on the dad's shoulder, and it's just so emotional. But it's one of those movies where like when they don't talk, like you just feel so much emotion going like through them, and I just think that's like the best type of movies, if you know what I mean. I gave this movie a 4.5. So yeah.
This movie, Worst Person in the World? Yes. I love that movie so much.
Her third movie on her letterbox, and it is The Worst Person in the World, directed by Joachim Trier. I don't know if that's pronounced correctly. In 2021, it is rated 4.1. And I don't think this is, I think, like, I don't know where this is from. It's definitely a European film. It's not American. I think they're speaking German or Dutch. I don't want to, I'm sorry. But yeah, so I was reading the subtitles. But I'm going to read you guys the summary. So the chronicles of 4 years in the life of Julie, a young woman who navigates the troubled waters of her love life and struggles to find her career path, leading her to take a realistic look at who she really is. So this is another one of those films that like you don't know what you want to be and stuff like that. But she basically, you know, went to medical school, she became a surgeon, and she realized that she only did all that stuff just to impress people around her, and she didn't really actually like what she was doing, and she wanted to, you know, quit the job. So she did, and she ends up studying psychology. And then after a while, she moves to photography, and she meets this guy who she falls in love with, and they end up being together. And it just shows their life and their dynamic and all of that. And then at, you know, one point they were like on vacation with their friends, and you know, he was talking about wanting to have kids because he was 44, she didn't want to, which is totally fine. And you know, they just brushed it off. And then a couple of weeks, I guess, passed, or maybe even a year. I don't really know the timeline because they don't really show the timeline, but apparently all of like the horse story happened in 4 years. So she then ends up crashes this like party, and she meets with this guy, and they kind of cheat. I mean, I know like the whole joke was like they were saying, oh, is this cheating? No, it's not, but like they were flirting and stuff. And you know, she ends up falling in love with him. Okay, so then she goes home and she's like, I'm not really feeling, you know, I don't have any more feelings left for, I forgot his name. What's her boyfriend's name? It's not specified if like they're engaged or something. I don't think they're engaged. I think they're just boyfriend girlfriend. I forgot his name. Anyways, but she basically was not feeling it anymore with her boyfriend, so she ends up breaking up with him, and it was so sad because he really loves her and everything. And then she ends up going and being in a relationship with the guy who she met at that party, and then later on at a bookstore. And that's it. So then they end up being in this relationship, and I think like a year passed or something like that, and her ex-boyfriend ends up having cancer. And she didn't know about this, but then she found out from like her friend, the one that they went on vacation with, and she ends up, you know, visiting him, being with him, you know, until he, and then she ends up getting pregnant from her boyfriend. And like she tells him, you know, that she is, and he was like, well, do whatever you want with it. If you really, you know, want to keep it. If you don't, you know, don't, and stuff like that. And he ends up dying, obviously, and she ends up breaking up with her boyfriend, her current boyfriend, I guess. And they skip forward, I think like a year or something, and she's working like on this movie set, and she's a photographer now, and you know, they're filming this scene with this woman, and then at the end she was like, let me take pictures of you, and she did. And then she looked at the window and she sees that woman who she was taking pictures with out with her, you know, second boyfriend, and they have a baby. Oh, and she does lose her baby, I think just from the stress with like I guess her ex-boyfriend's death and everything. But yeah, that was emotional, realistic, and very beautiful. I ended up giving it a 4 stars. Yay.
Twilight. Can you blame me? I'm a Twihard girly. Ever since I was little, I don't even know what draws me into it so much, but it's just so intoxicating and sexy and beautiful, and I love the goth aspects of it. I don't know, what's not to love?
I would just love to confirm that you are on Letterboxd and you love it, right?
I do, yeah, but I'm not going to tell you because I leave some pretty scathing reviews sometimes.
Okay, and then the last film from Miss Olivia Rodrigo. You know, Olivia was going amazing. Like, every movie that she's watched, I've rated 4 stars and higher. Okay, except for this queen that I've rated 1.5 stars. And the only reason I gave it 1.5 was for a specific scene only. So, I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about, but I'm talking about Twilight. Now, I've never watched Twilight beforehand. I've never watched a lot of these movies. I'll be telling you guys the movies that I watched and I haven't watched at the end. But yeah, Twilight, directed by Catherine Hardwicke. Now, I have not read the book nor watched the movie. It is released in 2008 and is rated 3.0. 3 stars? That's insane. That's a lot. I'm gonna read the summary for you guys. So, when you can live forever, what do you live for? When Bella Swan moves to a small town in the Pacific Northwest, she falls in love with Edward Cullen, a mysterious classmate who reveals himself to be a 108-year-old vampire. Despite Edward's repeated cautions, Bella can't stay away from him, a fatal move that endangers her own life. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about Twilight because everybody knows what Twilight is. It's basically vampires, except for like basically people who die end up being like vampires because Dr. Cullen transforms them into vampires. I guess he gives them like a second chance to life, and then they go to the school with like normal people, but it's really dangerous because like they can smell people and they want to eat them and stuff. It's just really weird. Anyways, everybody knows the plot of Twilight. I don't need to explain. Why I gave it 1.5? Well, I gave it for the filter. I really liked the color, you know, the color filter that they used. And I also really liked Supermassive Black Hole playing, you know, during the baseball scene. So I really liked the baseball scene, but only when like they were playing and before, you know, the game came in and like crashed, you know, their game and stuff. But yeah, so I rated it a 1.5. I would rate it like literally 0.5, but I'm trying to be nice here. And yeah, so it looks like I did not like Twilight from Olivia's top 4, and I didn't like The Babadook from Billie Eilish's top 4. So the movies that I've watched now from Billie Eilish, the only movie that I've watched was I Origins and Drive. And from Olivia, the only movies I've watched was Gone Girl and Lady Bird. So today, I've watched a lot of movies. Not only like Babadook, the Kevin movie, and Twilight. I'm gonna just call it European movie because I don't want to offend anyone. But those are the movies that I watched today just to film this video. And I know 2 of you guys have commented your Letterboxd, and I want to do a video of, I guess, watching your guys' top 4. So I'm definitely gonna work on that. You don't have to watch, you know, those movies. But yeah, you guys can still comment down below your Letterboxd, and if you guys do, I will react to all of them. Maybe not in one video, but hopefully in a couple of videos. And yeah, that is it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, give this video a big thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!